It's on Second Thought, episode 352, brought to you by Hook'em.com. Cedric Golden here with two of my favorites. The Texas Longhorns play at Texas A&M on Saturday, 6:30 p.m. Kyle Field, ABC. Winner goes to the SEC championship game to play Georgia in hot Atlanta on December 2nd, December 7th, which is a date that's near and dear to me because it's going to be the 74th birthday of one Olin Buchanan, or is it 75 OB? You're looking old.
Yeah,
You're looking
yeah.
old.
You're making me about 12 years older than I am. I
I'm
know
just,
I look 74.
you do fail the eye test, sir. You do fail the eye test. Speaking of 74, Kirk Bohls is with us. Houston Chronicle. Looking good, looking like a young Paul Newman on the ranch dressing bottle.
You been
Just,
hitting the bottle again?
I've been hitting something. I've been hitting something.
Yeah,
I've
as
been
long as you're
hitting
hitting
life.
something.
I've been hitting life. And it's
I'm
always
glad.
fun to see my brothers on here. I'm going to tell you before we get to the festivities, I have to thank these. It's a week of thanks. So I have to thank these two men for being instrumental in my career and helping me get to Austin and helping me get established. When I first got there 25 years ago, I mean, they really embraced me and helped me get started at a big newspaper. Well, at least Olin did. And OB, for that, I am so appreciative. And then about 8 years later, I met Kirk, and he was great as well. You were great, Duck.
I want to see if he'd last.
Well,
Yeah,
I will always say that
yeah.
I'm very blessed to have had a long career and I still get paid to write about sports. But um, the time of my career that I enjoyed the most was the time I spent at the Statesman because of the camaraderie and the 5 years, 4 or 5 years that we worked together side by side on high schools in the Austin area was some of the most enjoyable. There were a lot of laughs, a lot of experiences, a lot of laughs in that period.
I told you he was old. It was 2 years, OB. It was 2 years.
Was it only two?
It was two. They moved you up to the UTB. I got there in 99, and
Okay, I guess I did high schools for five
you
years,
did high schools for
and
five
then
years before I
came
got
up
there.
with
And then I got
in those
there.
two. We had so much fun. You in 2 years, it seemed like five.
It
I
seems
could have
like
did it for 20. That's how fun it was. That's
We
how
had a
fun
good
it was.
time.
We covered the high schools like the pros. It was amazing. Well, let's get to the game because
Let's
they
do
don't
it.
care about these old brothers in the club talking about the good old days when we had hair and no guts.
You
They
don't
don't
want to
care
be that
about
brother.
that. OB, so it's for all the marbles. And the Aggies, of course, pulled an Aggie and lost to Auburn.
Hell yeah, like the Longhorns
That,
never lost the game.
yeah, yeah. But in true Aggie fashion, they could probably beat Texas on Saturday. That'd be the most Aggie thing to do is to lose to
Oh,
Auburn and beat Texas. So
I th- I think A&M is good enough to beat anybody in the country.
I agree. I
They're
agree.
not good enough to expect to just go out and beat anybody in the country. And if they're going to have to play a full game, the last three games, SEC games, because New Mexico State doesn't count,
No.
but the last three games they've played, that would be LSU, South Carolina, and Auburn. They've fallen behind by double digit deficits. Now, they've come back to take the lead in all three of them, but they only held that lead against LSU. And some of the things they've done that's led, that after they took the lead to give it back were just very uncharacteristic, it appears, um, than when they were playing really well earlier in the year, like when they beat Missouri so bad, and when they followed that up with, or maybe it was before they beat Arkansas really in a very competitive game, and then followed up with Missouri. They were playing really well then. What they're not getting, that I think that really stands out right now, is they're not getting the pass rush that they were getting earlier in the year. Their starting defensive line, I think I've got this right, has produced one half a sack in the last 5 games.
That's crazy. I never
Yeah.
would have guessed that. That's
So
crazy.
Nick Scorton had 4.5 sacks after that Missouri game. He's had a half a sack. He got credited with a half a sack against LSU. And, that hasn't been your best defensive player most of the year, but they just haven't been getting the pass rush. They haven't been controlling the line of scrimmage as much. As a result, their secondary, which has had some injuries, but no excuse. Nobody is ever going to feel sorry for you, especially in the SEC. And that some guys in and out of the lineup, and without that pass rush helping them out, they've gotten exposed a little bit.
Well,
Sometimes
weird.
Yeah, well, Duck, what do you think about that? Because the one game where Texas lost to Georgia, they could not block.
Oh yeah.
They could not block. So how big an emphasis do you think that's going to be? Because the Aggies know that Quinn Ewers is not very mobile. They
No.
know. And
And
so,
even less than usual.
and now he's got an ankle, and he didn't show up to the presser on Monday. So we didn't get to gauge whether he was walking around or not. So we don't know as of Wednesday when this drops how well Quinn Ewers is getting around.
You know what's weird
got a
about
Manning.
that? Who?
But you got a Manning to
Oh, the
step.
backup. That's right, the backup. Hey, it's going to take a court order for him to sit Quinn and go to Arch Manning. That's how wedded he is to Quinn Ewers. I think it may be his kid. It may really be his kid. I don't know, but
Do you think Quinn Ewers has like blackmail materials on Sark that Sark's got to play Quinn?
I just think seriously, I think once you have the trust of Sark,
he loves him. He
you may
loves
be
hard.
in for life. You're
he
in
loves
for
hard,
life.
man. He loves hard.
He does.
That's his guy. And I'm telling you, we get questions all the time in our inbox. And when we're out and about, why isn't Arch Manning playing?
Yeah.
Well, it's because Quinn Ewers is Steve Sarkisian's guy.
Well, yeah, but why wouldn't he be? I mean, isn't he?
Well, he hadn't looked great all
very
year.
good.
He's been great for Sark. Okay, he's
Yeah.
the reason he's making $10 million a year. But he's been erratic and he's been inconsistent because their offensive line has been inconsistent. I mean, he took him out for two series against Georgia while he was in the medical tent. And you tell me if you disagree, I felt he should have played Arch in the second half. He played him those two series. They sacked him too, but he also had a 21-yard scramble. And he represents that threat, which Quinn, as we know, does not. And he can run a little bit, but he has so much trouble getting out of the pocket now if it collapses on him. So I just think your first question, go back to that. It just shaped up to me as Aggie D-line versus Texas O-line because, they gave up 7 sacks to Georgia in that game. Now, that was to Mikael Williams and Jalen Walker, the linebacker, and not too many people have guys like that. And you know what's interesting, guys? Mike Elko's the defensive coordinator by trade, and it's the defensive line, to quote Olin, just hadn't shown up the last few games. The flip side of that coin, Sark's an offensive guru, but the defense is what's been carrying them all year long. So they've kind of, traded in their skill set a little bit. That's kind of weird, isn't it?
It is.
But I know what they did expect more from the defense. They should demand more. I mean, I don't think Nick Scorton came down here from Purdue without a NIL deal.
He did? Get out of town.
I would
Whatever.
imagine he's getting something.
Yeah,
no, I said without. I didn't say
okay. Yeah. Nick
came down here without one. I said I don't think he would have come down here without one.
No way.
And Shamar Turner, that's a guy that's going to play in the NFL. Shamar Stewart is a guy that actually looks the part.
Yeah.
You ever remember guys you've had? I know we covered guys at Texas that, are always almost the guy that made the sack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Almost got to the quarterback. He's always
in Trey Moore, you mean?
He's always like one step away, but never gets there.
Why did Trey Moore just catch a stray? Go ahead, OP.
Well, he set it up, but he's playing better, Trey Moore. UTSA transfer.
Fix it.
So I think A&M has a good defense when the line is playing well.
Hey, OB,
It's average without.
how's Scooby doing? I saw he hurt his knee a little late in that
Yeah,
Auburn
he's
game.
okay.
He
He
came
came
back, but
back in
how's
the
he
game.
doing? Is he
He came
good?
back in the game later that game. Yeah, he's okay.
I
Scooby's
like
good.
him.
Will Lee, their cornerback, who was at Kansas State last year, he had to come out of the game. They haven't said what it was, but they had said it was minor, and they missed him bad. So he's expected to play. Jadon Hill, who was a transfer from Florida playing nickel, he missed most of the game after another undisclosed minor injury. He's supposed to be back, according to Elko. So they are getting a little bit healthier. I think Chase Basantes, there's a good chance. I wouldn't be surprised if he started at
Really?
left guard. I wouldn't be surprised. And they're even talking about Ruben Owens, the running back who they lost in August.
Coming
Uh,
back?
maybe he'll make an appearance. They haven't said no. He hadn't
Wow.
played all year. They haven't said no.
He had knee surgery, right?
I think I think it was his knee.
In August.
Huh? In August? Yeah, August
And
camp.
he might come back that quick.
Oh. Supposedly he's been in practice. There's a video of him, moving around and running. And last week before the Auburn, he showed up as doubtful. He went from out to doubtful.
That's an upgrade, OB.
So, I guess it's a possibility. Now, even if he does play, I don't think he'll play a lot. You don't want to put as explosive as he is.
Right.
I don't think you want to put too much on a guy in the most important game of the year that hadn't played all year.
That's pretty risky, but A&M always has a 12th man coming off the bench, right?
He's so lame. You're so lame.
So, OB, do you think the big test will be Aggie D line against the Texas O line, or you have a different factor deciding this?
Now, I think that's where it starts, especially for the Aggies on defense. Now, and like I said, when the Aggies defensive line is productive, that's a good defense.
Yeah.
It's not, it's average at best. I mean, we've seen that the last two games. They've given up 44 and 43 points.
Yeah.
So you got to get more production out of them. Nick Scorton has to be making plays. Shamar Stewart has to be making plays. So yeah, I think that's where it starts. But I also think it's going to be really important about A&M and their running game. And I know that Texas has been great against the run this year.
Mm-hmm.
I also know that they played a lot of teams that can't do very much offensively. And so those numbers, as impressive as they are, and I'm sure deserve to some degree, but they may be skewed somewhat. And A&M offensively has to be, I think they have to run the ball to be successful, even though Marcel Reed has added some juice. But I think they still have to run effectively to be at their best. And
it's a big Amari game. Big Amari game.
Are they going to be able to do it? Are they going to be able to run it? I'll say this: the reason A&M is improved, the number one reason A&M is improved this year is because their offensive line went from like a D, maybe a D minus grade in 2023 to at least a B this year.
That puts you in games. That puts you in games when you can block up front. That puts you in games. Let me ask you: we know the bragging rights are on the line, and they haven't played since 2011. But this is so much bigger than the rivalry. The Aggies could get to the CFP, but they got to win this game to keep that dream alive. I think Texas can lose and still get in.
Oh, Texas!
They're not going to say no to a 10-2 SEC team.
No, Texas is in.
Texas is in. Yeah,
I think A&M has to win both games to get in.
Me too.
Yeah,
but you don't get a shot, like you said. You don't even get a shot at Georgia,
right?
If you don't beat Texas. So there's so much at stake. It's funny. I do wonder how much the quote rivalry matters to the players today.
I don't think it does. They
not as
weren't
much
here.
No,
they were outside playing when Justin Tucker.
But also look at
Mhm.
A&M's starting offense. Their probable starting offense. 7 of them's from out of state, and 1 of them's from Sweden.
So they don't care. They don't.
It
They can
doesn't mean
only listen
anything.
to the OGs.
Yeah.
It's not in their blood to
And
care
maybe it
about
would
this
be.
rivalry.
Yeah, and maybe all those guys from out of state, and 1 of them from Colorado, Trey
Yeah.
Zoon, his family's Aggie, so it's a little bit different. But even if they were from out of state like that, maybe it'd be different had the game been played every year. But they're
Right.
coming in. They haven't played. They've never had a reason to be mad at Texas.
No.
Nope.
And I think players are less mad at other players because they know them so well. Because
Recruits, they
especially
recruit together.
they
Recruit
recruit
Go to
together.
together.
Kansas.
Well, and these 2 teams, they play each other in high school, and they go on recruiting visits together, and Elite 11 and summer camps and the Manning Academy and all that. So and then just kind of the nature of the beast right now with the transfer portal. Players
A
are
lot of
changing all the time.
free agents, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you know what? And A&M's benefited heavily from the transfer portal. So you're
Yeah,
not
so
going to.
Texas.
But I do think, and maybe it'll come back. I think some good old-fashioned hatred is good for college sports, especially
Yes, it
football.
is. Oh, yes, it is. Yes,
We were talking to I was talking to a former A&M guard. You might remember Steve McKinney.
Oh
Played
yeah.
for 10 years.
It's Seth's brother, isn't it?
Yes, that's older brother.
Yeah, yeah.
McKinney's older brother. And he was telling me like when he was a player at A&M, how you players will host on recruiting trips. And he was hosting this one guy and he was driving him around. And finally he said, "So what do you think?" And the guy said, and they were probably about 4 or 5 miles from campus,
Oh,
driving
no.
around. I said, "Yeah, it's nice, but I think I'm going to Texas." And Steve said he stopped the car and said, "Get the hell out." And he said,
Write him off.
Go ahead and walk to
called the guy-
Austin.
he said he called the guy about 10 years ago and said, "Hey, you remember when I did that? I want to apologize." But that's the way it was, and that's the way it should be.
We need it.
That's kind of the way Sark is. If somebody tells him that they're in the portal, he says, "All right, pack your bags.
You
Here's the
can't come
ticket.
back.
You're not.
can't
You're
come back.
done." Yeah,
You
he doesn't
can't.
want that 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And
I don't blame him.
speaking of that, Anthony Hill, the great linebacker, committed to A&M. And
Yeah.
the crowd will be all over him, won't they?
To some degree, I guess, but I think from the stories we heard about what happened with that is, look, I'll say this, there was a recruiting coordinator who is no longer here, and a big part of that is the way they botched the whole Anthony Hill deal.
Wow.
Like
Oh, tell us.
supposedly, allegedly, the Hill family was after a game was standing around for like an hour and a half. What do we do now?
Oh, they left him alone.
Supposedly, that's what I heard. I'm not saying that's 100%, but I'll say this: your number one recruit, you should have somebody assigned to be with them every moment and take them where they are. And I think if there's any truth to that, and I know that particular recruiting coordinator was gone not long after that, but I think that was an example of how Jimbo Fisher had gotten lazy.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
should have
Well,
been on top of that. That's Anthony Hill. Yeah,
he's the real deal. He's the next Derek Johnson, Olin, right? Sid.
he is.
I mean, he
fat
pokes
and
the ball out.
he's
He's their leading sacker at 7
violent, and he's violent.
A&M could win a national championship on all the guys that were committed at one point.
Yeah.
And
And the ones that transfer, like Walter Nolan, he's a finalist for the Outland Trophy.
Yeah, I don't think they're missing that bad over here.
Yeah, I think Ole Miss likes him.
I think they might like him, but I think there's a lot of baggage that comes with Walter.
They talk a little bit about Marcel Reed. I mean, to me, after the Aggie D line, that's the biggest key. And Sed and I have seen a lot of bad young freshman quarterbacks go up against Texas, and they haven't seen the likes of Marcel Reed, have they?
Another freshman, but at least a freshman who's a redshirt that's got some playing.
Yeah.
Look, first of all, Cedric will love this about Marcel. His dad's from Marshall, Texas.
Yes.
So he's got East Texas ties. His dad was the head football coach for many years at Tennessee State University. So he's got that background that he grew up in.
Too Tall Jones.
Yeah. He's such first of all, I didn't expect to see him play. at all this year because
Wow.
I think that Connor Wigman was going to have a big year. Everything about
Right.
and pointed to that, and I'm kind of baffled at what happened. Maybe he doesn't feel comfortable in this offense, and it's like what third offensive coordinator in 3 years, even though we both know that Jimbo was the offensive coordinator, just didn't have that title. But
Wigman's got to be transferring, right?
oh yeah, sure. Nobody's who has ability is going to stay, but
Right.
but Marcel has been this. Obviously you thought that this kid could play or he wouldn't be here to begin with.
He's electric.
But he was starting, was it his first start against Florida? I think it was his first start.
Yeah.
And, or it was like the second or third play of the game for him. And Florida's coming with the rush and he sidesteps it and runs for 30 something yards. Like, wait, we haven't seen this since, Manziel or maybe Trevor Knight, but we just don't see this a lot. Kellen Mond was not one to, yeah, but
Kellen
wouldn't
throw it. He was not a runner. He didn't like to run.
They wouldn't let him run.
But anyway, you're starting going, whoa, what? And then he starts making some plays, and then he makes mistakes like freshmen will, and he grow up with him. And he wasn't great, but he was good enough. But I saw him get later against Florida. You ought to Google it. Say fakes the jock off a Florida guy, and man, he talked about breaking ankles.
I watched the game.
This poor linebacker from Florida still doesn't know where he is. Yeah. So yeah, he is electric, and I think he's the number one reason that you can have some optimism about Texas A&M in this game against Texas and beyond. Right. Because, look, is he a finished product? By no means. But he has some juice that A&M hadn't seen at quarterback in a while. And I thought I saw some from Connor when he was a freshman, too. He went out and threw 4 touchdown passes against Ole Miss, led them to a win over LSU and give the ball to Devon A-Chain and make a few passes. But he did. But Marcel he's kind of an unflappable guy. He's not being.
I like him. He's kind of an old soul. I watched him in some interviews, and he's kind of low key, witty, and funny. Yeah. I just like his confident swagger. It's understated, but I like it.
Yeah, and he made a play. He made a play against Auburn last week where the rush was all around him. And he kind of danced his way through it. And then I'm thinking, oh, he's got a lane. He's about to take off. But he pulls up and he throws the ball 25 yards downfield, found a guy, perfectly thrown, hits the tight end in the chest, he drops it.
I remember.
And if he catches it, there's a good chance they win the game. I mean, that's how close they were. But so I say that just to talk about how much ability you see from Marcel that you haven't seen from that quarterback position. I'm not saying A&M hadn't had good quarterback play, especially with Kellen, but it's just like Kirk used the word electric. And it's just that electricity and that hold your breath moment when he starts moving around. Maybe Kirk comparable to James Brown as a freshman.
Wow.
Yeah. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. I thought you were going to say Kevin Murray, and I go, wait a minute. Kevin Murray was one of the greatest quarterbacks
he was my guy.
College. If he hadn't broken his ankle.
I can go back to his son and remind you about what I said about if all the players that were committed to A&M are here, if they could have won a national championship with the guys that they couldn't keep.
They lost a bunch of quarterbacks. The Haynes King had a year with Georgia Tech. Calzada's tearing it up at Incarnate Word.
Oh my God!
So
can you really tear it up?
But yeah, I'm proud of him, Vicky.
Conference Player of the Year.
Well,
who's that?
Calzada's their Conference Player of the Year.
I know. Beat Alabama once.
Well, Doug,
that's like.
Go ahead, Ob.
I was going to say that's like. I don't want to. I was trying to think of a way to rip on Kirk, but I couldn't come up with something. But
This was so
you
easy
know,
for you.
that's when you have one amazing moment and you can't, you can't ever understand why it never happened again or how it happened in the first place.
Right.
But
That's
yes,
what Saban's thinking.
he had a legendary performance in one game.
Yeah.
He played
Yeah.
pretty decently against LSU later that year, but they lost. But that one particular game, he was amazing.
And that's
Yeah.
why we'll always remember. That's why we'll always remember. And good for him. Duck,
I'm
Yeah.
sure
Duck, we were
Yeah.
on campus. We were on campus Monday. And did you see a confident bunch getting ready for
Yeah.
this game? The one thing
Yeah.
I'll say is they are old. They're a bunch of juniors and seniors, and they were
All right.
5'7" 3 years ago.
All
So
right.
not a whole lot's gonna affect them, but this is gonna be probably the most raucous environment that they have ever
probably.
played in. And they played at Alabama and in the big house. I think this is gonna be way more raucous.
They played at Arkansas and they played at Michigan, but those were 11 a.m. kickoffs, which we all know is not the same. They played at Alabama, but you know how Aggies love to call Longhorns teeth sippers, and I think the Alabama crowds kind of like that, don't you think, OB? You've been the
Yeah, Alabama, yeah, they're like any college crowd when things are going well.
all right.
Everybody's excited, but they're so used to winning at such a high level that it takes a little bit more to impress them, I think.
I agree.
I think when you put all the elements involved, and we all know that, what's at stake, how long it's been since they played, we all know all. And Aggies are always going to be, hey, I've seen Aggies be loud for, well, like LSU, right? It was a crazy crowd.
Yeah,
And
that was crazy.
and I think, let's face it, LSU in the minds of A&M is the villain, but not as big a villain as LSU's the Wicked Witch of the East, Texas
Ah,
to the West.
you've written that. I know you've written that.
And
I
the
know
Wicked
you have.
Witch of the West was the really bad one, right?
Do you
Oh,
think
yeah.
can they break the attendance record? 110,633?
Can they? Sure they can.
Since
Will
they
they be allowed
redesigned
to?
it, when they redesigned it, didn't they lose some seats?
Yes, they did.
Right.
They do sell some. They do sell some standing room only.
Right. I heard that.
I don't know if they can, if they will, because I don't know if like the fire marshal will allow them to, but but it's going to be more than every seat's going to be sold. I'll say that there's going to be standing room only,
Right.
but I always say, well, isn't it always standing room only at A&M? Isn't I mean,
Seems like it.
isn't that the
I've never
tradition?
seen. Yeah, there's all.
Aren't you supposed to stand through the whole game?
Yeah. Oh, you're so corny. Oh my God.
No, it's not be corny. It's the truth, right?
Yeah, we should have seen that coming.
That's what they.
I'm slipping. I'm slipping, man.
We're not around him every day. We slip a little bit.
Oh my God. I got old. I got old right at this moment. I got old.
Yeah. He's the
I
prince of
should have saw
fun
that.
too.
I
so.
should have saw that
No,
one
I'm
coming.
not. That's not a pun. That's just I'm
I know
asking.
that's not a pun, but you love these little alliteration stuff. We know you.
Oh my God. I'm so
We
dumb.
can tell stories.
OB, tell our viewers why A&M's going to win this game.
Okay, I'll tell you why. First of all, A&M has a good football team.
Yes.
They do.
Agreed.
True. Very good.
So they're a good football team with a good quarterback, and I think I'm going to make to their defense. I'm going to make a comparison to Texas. I'm going to go back to what was it, 2009, and that Texas offensive line got absolutely brutalized by Nebraska in the Big 12 championship game, and they kept hearing about how bad they were for the next few. But then when they played the national championship game, they actually played a really hell of a game. That line did, and I think that when you hear about how bad you are, if first of all you have to be talented, but if you're talented and prideful, and you go through a couple of weeks where you're being told how bad you are, I think you come back and play your best. So I expect to see a good A&M team in this, play its best. But the fact is, A&M is a better team at home than they are on the road. And that's very common in the SEC. I know y'all are just finding this out, and you thought it was all rhetoric for 12 years. Oh, yeah, sure it is. But it's real. And, I saw somebody, didn't they say that if you looked at the top 4 or 5 teams in the SEC standings, they're like 13 and 12 in conference games on the road?
I didn't see that, but I believe it.
So it's a real thing. So I think they can win because, first of all, they're good. Being at home's not enough if you're not talented. They're good. They got Marcel's coming along. I think their defense will step up and play better than it has. And the home field advantage, I think, will be a factor. And quite frankly, I think Texas would have been better served to have played I know they don't get to pick. I know they weren't ducking. I'm not saying that. But had the TVs picked them, I think they would have been better served to play maybe Arkansas at night, just to understand, if you haven't been through it before, the difference of an SEC crowd at night. And I know, look, you're saying, oh yeah, A&M wasn't always in the SEC. It's just it's changed, and you'll see over the next couple of years, and you'll see this weekend. It does make a difference. So those are the reasons why I think A&M can win the game. And quite frankly, and here's where y'all can shout me down, I wonder if that Texas defense is really as good as the numbers say, or if they haven't, or if they're not a little bit deceiving because of the number of, let's face it, poor offensive teams playing freshmen and walk-ons, freshmen in their first. Not saying they're not good. I'm not disrespecting them. I'm not saying they're not a top 20 defense or even top 10. I'm just wondering, are they as good as the numbers say, or are the numbers skewed? Because you remember that show Seinfeld? Remember when Kramer?
No, I don't.
Kirk, remember when Kramer was taking karate classes and was bragging about how he was beating everybody, and then it turns out everybody else in the karate class was 10 years old? Texas defense hadn't been picking on guys their own size.
Oh, wow.
So we'll see, if they're as good as the numbers say they are. But yeah, I think that home field advantage and the fact that Texas A&M is actually a good football team are the reasons they can win that game.
Duck, we got about a minute. Why will Texas win?
Well, I think Texas is a better team. I think the defense is legit. They've had 6 straight games with multiple takeaways. And inferior quarterbacks are one reason for that. And Texas has gotten so far. They're a legitimate national championship contender, Sid, as you and I both know, having seen every one of their games. And Quinn's very unflappable. I do worry about Bert Auburn. He's only kicked 9 out of 13 field goals, and I think I could even see Randy Bond, kicking a game winner to kind of flip the script on Justin Tucker. But
that'd be something.
I would probably lean toward Texas just because I think their defense is a little more solid, a little more balanced, front to back. Quinn Ewers, is a winner. And they got so many weapons at wide receiver and running back. And they're going to throw 25 screen passes. So, A&M is going to have to tackle in space. And I know they had their problems with Auburn and South Carolina at doing that.
I'm picking Texas by 1 score. It's going to be close. I think it's going to be great. It's going to be a raucous atmosphere. Whoever takes care of the ball is going to win this game. And if they can get to Quinn Ewers, then the Aggies have one hell of a chance.
They do
win this game. But I think Texas is that defense is good as advertised, even though this is the most talented quarterback since Carson Beck that they'll play. So, brothers, we are up against the time. We appreciate it. Love you guys. Happy holidays, and I'll see you in College Station.
Be safe.